Testing, testing, 1, 2, testing.
3rd, 2025. This evening, we will be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by Village Clerk Manal Desai.
Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The meeting will come to order, and the clerk will please call the roll.
Trustee Sutker?
Here.
Trustee Robinson?
Here.
Trustee Kuhn?
Here.
Trustee Johnson?
Here.
Trustee Pierce-Lovan?
Here.
Trustee Klein?
Here.
Mayor Van Dusen?
Here, we have a quorum. Next item on the agenda is approval of the consent agenda for the meeting this evening. A motion is in order. Trustee Sucker, seconded by Trustee Kuhn. Is there anything anybody would like to have removed?
I just want to remove item 4, the meeting minutes, for just a minor suggestion.
4? Okay. Anything else? If not, call the roll, please.
Trustee Sutker?
Aye.
Trustee Robinson?
Aye.
Trustee Kuhn?
Aye.
Trustee Johnson?
Aye.
Trustee Pierce-Lovan?
Aye.
Trustee Klein? Mayor Van Dusen?
Aye. Excuse me. I'm fighting some bugs, so excuse me if I'm a little slow. Item number 4.
Sure. This is just a small request. So earlier today, we got an email request asking for us to make an amendment to the meeting minutes of our last meeting for the discussion of the Skokie Community Land Trust. And specifically, it asked if the minutes could really highlight Trustee Kuhn and Trustee Robinson's request for more of a community process regarding the community land trust. So I just wanted to motion that that be included in the meeting minutes, since that was a pretty important part of our discussion.
We'll put that amendment in as requested.
Thank you. Thank you.
Excuse me?
I have a requested amendment to the meeting minutes. Last time I spoke, you promised to send me a written answer to every single line item in the meeting minutes that I gave in from our May 31st meeting. The meeting minutes don't say that I did that, and you promised to do that, and you haven't done it.
Okay,
So I'd like to amend that to show that that was promised but not delivered.
okay, that's fine. Next item on the agenda is report of our village manager, John Lockerbie.
Thank you, Mayor and trustees. Good evening, everyone. Items A, B, C, and D under my report this evening were approved as part of tonight's consent agenda, and that completes my report.
Next item is report of our corporation counsel, Michael Lord.
Thank you, Mayor, trustees. Good evening, everyone. Items A, B, and C are ordinances which were on the consent agenda tonight and were adopted at the beginning of this meeting. We then turn to item D. This item D is an ordinance which is on the agenda for first reading tonight. The second reading will be on March 17th, 2025. This ordinance will amend Chapter 58, Article 1 of the Skokie Village Code to reaffirm current policies and practices of the village concerning prohibitions on immigration enforcement and support immigrant rights. This action was directed by the mayor and the Board of Trustees during our February 18th, 2025 board meeting, and has been brought forward in the document in front of you for this evening. Item E is an ordinance which is on the agenda for second reading and adoption tonight. The first reading was on February 18th, 2025. This ordinance will amend Chapter 2 of the Skokie Village Code by establishing term limits for the mayor, village clerk, and village trustees, both at large and district trustees. Pursuant to Village Resolution Number 24-7-R-1573, beginning with the 2025 consolidated election, one may not hold the offices of village mayor, village clerk, and at-large village trustees for more than 3 terms total. Beginning with the 2027 consolidated election, one may not hold the office of a district trustee for more than 3 terms total. Mayor, I would ask for action on this item tonight.
A motion is in order. Trustee Pierce-Logan, seconded by Trustee Sutker. Are there any comments or questions?
Our public comment,
Let the trustees go first.
you just asked some comments.
Comments and questions, it's the trustees' meeting, so the trustees go first. You'll get a chance. Okay. I apologize, Jerry.
Question.
Yes.
Just to be specific, so the trustee can only go serve for 3 terms. Mayor and clerk are also 3, is that correct?
Correct.
And I just a question, how did we come up with this number?
It's consistent with the referendum that was brought to the public vote.
All right, no, the only reason I asked, because I was just made aware recently that Niles, the mayor, can only serve for 2 terms. So I just wondered how we arrived at that number.
I think part of, I can't read into what the authors of the referendum were thinking, but I would at least suggest the consistency in municipal elections helps us avoid confusion. And so it's probably healthy to say they're all 3-year terms, and I emphasize in total. So even if one were to run for 2 terms and leave and return, that is 3 total.
Thank you.
Jerry?
Thank you. I'll be brief. Jerry Brozick, I live in Optima. I want to be careful to take policy and not the policy makers. I read and watch media from both sides, including Real Clear Politics, which aggregates both sides. I pay attention to what is not disputed. It's undisputed that several nations have emptied their jails of hardened criminals and sent them to the United States.
Wait, Jerry, we're talking about term limits.
What?
We're talking about term limits.
Oh, okay, I thought we were talking about I wanted to talk about the earlier item.
The amendment to the Human Relations
Yes.
chapter. Okay, let us finish
Okay, I'm
with this
sorry,
first.
sorry.
That's okay. Trustee Pierce-Logan.
Thank you, Mayor. So I, 4 years ago, began the discussion of term limits for our elected officials. So I'm very supportive of this. I think it's a good recommendation, and I support the term limits for the trustees, the village mayor. I would consider, depending on what my colleagues think as well, re-looking at, do we want the term limits in addition for the village clerk? I feel like the village clerk position is a full-time elected position, but it is a full-time staff member, whether we like it or not, of the village. So we could have that discussion, but in terms of village mayor and the village trustees, I am fully supportive of the term limits for 3 terms, 4 years a term, up to 12 years in serving. I would like to hear other opinions.
Trustee Coe?
Yeah, I think given that this was the language that was included in the referendum, that we keep it as is for now. But I appreciate the comment.
Trustee Sutker.
I would echo that this was what was voted on. Would appreciate the comment.
Same.
And again, Mayor, thank you. As I said, originally, it was something that I initiated that I was very in favor of. So I, again, also agree that it should stand as elected by the referendum. But I just wanted to put that out there for thought. Thank you.
Did you want to speak on term limits?
I did want to briefly add a couple of comments that ultimately, this village is run by the village manager and the team that works with the village manager. They work for the trustees who are elected. So there's two challenges. One is the electorate isn't engaged enough in this town, and it's hard to become engaged because the village clerk's website, my parents live in District 1. I don't know who those people are that are running for the District 1 trustee because there's no contact information on the village website. There's no links to any websites. There's no home addresses for me to go knock on their doors. I have no way to interview these people to understand whether they're there. I think we should be more worried about how do we make the candidates accessible to people so they're there, and an interested electorate who probably will become more interested based on the events of February of 2025, should dictate that. So in general, I am opposed to the concept of term limits if the person is exceptionally competent. However, since the village manager runs the village, if you're gonna put term limits on the trustees and the mayor, I ask that you amend it to put that on the village manager and the assistant village manager as well, because that's ultimately what matters here. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who wishes to address term limits?
Just to be abundantly clear, we are implementing the referendum that was passed in November as is. Any changes theoretically to term limits would have to be passed by referendum. Any electoral change whatsoever has to be approved by Skokie voters. So we are merely, we have very little say in this at this point. We are simply implementing what was voted on by voters in November 2024.
We're codifying the referendum.
Mayor, then I'm asking for board action on this tonight.
And, yeah, we have a motion and a second.
Right.
Yes. Call the roll, please.
Trustee Sucker? Aye. Trustee Robinson?
Aye.
Trustee Kuhn?
Aye.
Trustee Johnson?
Aye.
Trustee Pierce-Lovan? Aye. Trustee Klein? Aye. Mayor Van Dusen?
Aye, the motion passes.
That concludes my report for today.
Thank you. Jerry?
Okay. Excuse me, I'm having some bad luck today inserting myself into the proceedings, what to stand up, what to go down, so I apologize. Maybe I should not have had a glass of wine with dinner, but I apologize, and apologize like I do to my wife. I apologize. So I'll be brief. It's well known that I said it's deporting the baddest of the bad, the worst of the worst first. The baddest of the bad, the worst of the worst. And it looks from our human rights ordinance that we're going to give sanctuary city status and protection to the baddest of the bad and the worst of the worst. Maybe down the line, less bad people, good people even, need protection. But right now, I'm really worried about the bad of the bad and the worst of the worst who are released from foreign prisons, gang members. I guess ICE has a list of 425,000 of these bad people. That's only a small portion of all the illegal migrants, but I'm worried about that portion, and I think for that portion, we should cooperate a little more with ICE if they really are going against very bad people. So I just worry about it, and this is kind of a life and death. All the other stuff about corporation counsel reform and all that stuff, new term limits is not life and death, but criminals living next door is really life and death, and I worry about my fellow neighbors, and I'm just voicing some concern, so thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the Village Seal Committee.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the Village Board. I'm Maria Monastero Bueno. I'm co-chair of the Village Seal Committee, and tonight we're very proud to share with you our recommended design for a new village seal. Tonight we'll recap the process of reviewing our current village seal, which has been used since the 1940s. Then we'll share the Village Seal Committee's work to design a new seal and share updates that have been made to the design since we last presented it here in October of '24, arriving at our recommended design. And finally, we'll outline the next steps in the rollout of the new village seal. The conversation surrounding our current village seal began at the Human Relations Commission in 2018 and was initiated by Commission member Rabbi Amy Memis-Foller. That discussion prompted the Human Relations Commission to periodically discuss and review the seal over the next several years. And in 2021, we were referred to Native American and Indigenous Affairs at Northwestern University to facilitate further dialogue. So now I'm going to turn it over to Jasmine Gurneau to review that process.
Good evening, Mayor and Village Board. I'm Jasmine Gurneau, co-chair of the Village Seal Committee and Director of Native American and Indigenous Affairs at Northwestern University, and also Skokie resident. In 2022, the Village and Human Relations Commission initiated a formal review of the current village seal. The review included national peer-reviewed research and literature, a listening session with members of the Native American community, and collaborations with the Skokie Heritage Museum, Skokie Historical Society, Skokie Public Library, and the Mitchell Museum of the American Indian, now the Gitchigamin Indian or Indigenous Nations Museum. The committee's review found that the current seal is not an accurate representation of the tribes historically from the area and in conflict with how some members of the Native community would like to be represented. Additionally, depictions of Native people can reinforce stereotypes and prejudice. In February 2023, the Village Seal Review Committee issued a report that unanimously recommended that the village develop a new design that reflects the rich history and promising future of the village, representing the history of Skokie's land, the Native community, the possibilities of Skokie's future, and the richness of Skokie's multicultural community. And I will pass it back to Maria for more about the committee.
So this is a listing of all of us who have participated for quite some time on this committee. And in addition to everybody who is listed here, I want to acknowledge Marnie Smiley of Bumper Lanes and Mary Fedorowski of Overbite Studio for their work on our project. Here you'll see a timeline of the committee's process. We began by first conducting a community survey in the summer of 2023. The survey was followed by artist solicitation, interviews, and research. And then came concept development, design, refinement. And then this past October 2024, we presented a draft design to the village board and launched a survey to solicit feedback from the community. We then went through the survey feedback line by line, made adjustments to the design, and arrived at a recommended design that we are presenting this evening. To recap the survey feedback, we received more than 300 responses total, both online and through in-person engagement at the Skokie Farmers Market. We were happy to hear that an overwhelming majority of residents felt that they understood why the current seal was being replaced. Some positive feedback we heard included the symbolism and meaning behind the design, its aesthetic appeal, and its inclusion of native representation and cultural history. Some areas for improvement included unfamiliarity with the word Wabskokie, the balance of text within the outer border, and identification of the flame element. The committee reviewed all of the input, both positive, negative, and everything in between, and we made the following changes to the design. Here you'll see the October 2024 design on the left and the recommended design we're presenting this evening on the right. The color of the flame element was updated to incorporate red, orange, and yellow hues associated with the fire. The base of the flame was widened to more clearly depict fire. 1888 was removed from the outer border to center Village of Skokie at the top and reflect that the history of Skokie's land began before 1888. The font was changed from Futura to Minion to provide a more historic and professional appearance, and the spelling of Wapskokie was updated to reflect more common usage. Now I'm going to turn it back over to Jasmine to detail some of the key elements of the design.
There are many beautiful layers of meaning throughout the design. So first, with the flame, it's the central element of the seal and represents the Potawatomi, the keepers of the fire, and the Council of Three Fires, which include Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi. These are historical tribes from the area. The flame is also inspired by the Skokie spirit flame, which has been used by the village and the broader community since 1978 as a symbol representing the collective power and energy devoted to making Skokie a better place for everyone. The broadleaf cattails are included to symbolize the indigenous plants native to the area, including those found at Emily Oaks Nature Center. Cattails provide food, weaving material, medicine, and help clean polluted water. So the Potawatomi word for marsh, Wapskokie, describes the land that is now Skokie, reflecting a connection to the land and the people historically from the area. At a deeper level, Wapskokie reflects a place where medicine is produced, further reflecting the scientific achievements and medicines developed at downtown Skokie's Illinois Science and Technology Park, excellent care provided to the community through Skokie Hospital, healing supported by the Illinois Holocaust Museum in Skokie, and a community that welcomes everyone and combats hate. The artistic style is inspired by the Skokie Spirit stained glass artwork found above the Oakton Street entrance to the Village Hall, which serves to welcome and inspire visitors. You'll see the artist Joe Felice pictured there next to the window. Stained glass reflects a place where light always shines through. It's both a window and its own image. The stained glass is a mosaic, which reflects the collection of smaller individual pieces fitting together to create a larger, more beautiful image representing Skokie's cultural diversity. And here you'll see the both the color and the black and white version of the seal.
All right, thank you, Jasmine and Maria, and good evening, Mayor and members of the board. My name is Patrick Degnan. I'm the Communications and Engagement Director with the Village. I want to provide you with a quick overview of the implementation process, both for the logo and the Village seal. So first, you'll see the Village logo up on the screen. That now serves as the primary identifier for Village of Skokie programs and services. That logo has been used since 2022 and has already replaced the seal in many applications, which includes on village vehicles, new village vehicles, I should say. New trash carts have been not branded with the village seal since 2021. Those are just branded with Village of Skokie. Other areas where you will see the village logo is staff clothing, fleeces, hats, things like that, the village website, online forms, village publications, flyers, and marketing materials. Those all have the village logo on them. And rollout of the logo will continue on an ongoing rolling basis over time. And then in terms of the village seal, so we see this as being used primarily for authoritative and ceremonial purposes. So our initial rollout of the seal will include immediately updating official uses of the seal. So that includes embossers and stamps for the village clerk's office, for things like passports and proclamations, updated birth and death record paper for the Health and Human Services Department, as well as updated certificates of occupancy for our Building and Inspection Services Department. A few other items that use some of the same imagery that is found in the seal will need to be redesigned. That includes our public safety uniform patches, as well as the village flag. So the process of redesigning those items will begin after we have a new seal adopted. And with that, I will turn it back to Maria and Jasmine in case there are any questions. Thank you.
Just so everybody realizes, this will come back as a second reading and adoption on March 17th. It'll be an amendment to the section, let me get it so I can be correct here. An amendment to section 2-1, corporate seal. So comments, questions? Just,
I just have a question about how, like, this great information, what everything means, will be communicated to people, because, by the way, I like the red in there. I think it adds some vibrancy too, along with the idea of the fire. But I think it's really important that people understand the symbolic nature of the seal, and I just wanted to know how that's gonna be communicated.
Well, that's part of our task for the next round of what we'll be doing between our committee and I'm sure our Human Relations Commission as well, is the educational piece of it. Going to schools, obviously Patrick's gonna add things to the website. The explanation that I think many of you have in your hands is really informative. We really tried to detail piece by piece.
Trustee Robinson.
Former English teacher here, appreciate the symbolism, big time. Thank you for that. And also, what a beautiful homage to the indigenous language, Wapskoki. I just wanted to comment on the process. It just took so long. And I just wanted to commend the committee for hanging in there, because I know things like this is so important, but it takes time, collaboration, patience, time, discussion, collaboration, remix, all right? So I just wanted to extend that gratitude for hanging in there. I think it's a beautiful design, and just wanted to appreciate the commission for their due diligence.
Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am. No, you can go up to the microphone, give us your name, and direct your question to the village board.
Okay. Yeah, I love the design, like some of the colors and the representation, and just thank you. I think they've already started their communication thing, because as just a village resident, I've seen the new seal on maybe the newsletter, the web here and there, so I already know a little bit, but thank you. And my question is, oh, that's right, she directed to you. The question is, when anyone drives into or walks into Skokie on Lincoln Avenue, on here and there, we see the current, I don't know if it's that one, but the village, the old one, right, with the native headdress. Village of Skokie, 1880, whatever. Will those spots where the old seal currently exists, in fact, I think it's in the shape of a triangle, like a brown triangle with that image, will those be replaced with the new design? And if so, I think that's great, because that's what people outside of Skokie, or us when we return home, but see when they come into the village, and it sends a message of who we are. And I really love the fact that the mosaic represents diversity of people, different people coming together. So I really love it. But that's the question. Yeah.
John?
Yes, that is one of the priorities to implement with the new seal. There's 22 of those locations. Some of them are on a pole. Some of them have a little bit more space. And so part of Patrick's work moving forward is getting those entryway signage, is what we refer to that as, being redesigned and then being able to implement that.
Oh, good, thank you.
I just want to make a quick comment to follow up on your question as well. Part of the education is not only talking about the symbolism related to the village seal, but also make sure that we don't forget the history as well in terms of why we have to change the village seal. And so part of that work is making sure that we preserve that historical understanding, the process, and why the need to change. And we've also been working with the Skokie Historical Museum, so we hope that it will be included as part of that history as well.
Thank you.
Good evening. I rise just to remind the trustees that the village has limited resources, and that to use the full-time communication director's time to do this project at a time when on February 14th, we learned that most of the senior citizens at risk, you didn't have a database of people to call with phone numbers to let them know there. I brought water to a 95-year-old woman on my block because I knew nobody else would. I don't understand how something like this could be prioritized over something as simple as having a good list of people and addresses and ages and phone numbers to call to help senior citizens in a time of difficulty. And quite honestly, while this new logo is very pretty, there's nothing wrong with the old logo, and quite frankly, it cancel cultures the Indian people that founded this land that we're occupying right now. So I question why we're even having this conversation when there's far more important projects that the communications director could be working on to serve the actual citizens of this village.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who has any comments? So this will be back on the agenda for sure.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Pam Silas. Actually Jasmine's mother and the grandmother to my two little Skokie grandchildren over there. I just want to say thank you for taking a look at this seriously and all of the process that you've engaged in. It shows care and respect and well overdue. So much about that original seal was somebody else's fantasy about what our community looked like or represented. And you've done the hard work now of making this real, and really proud of the work. I'm proud of everything that you described and what you're trying to do. And I also feel proud that my grandchildren will be raised in a place that respects that history and carries it forward. And there are a number of people in the community. In fact, we have a whole contingency over here. Everybody raise your hand who's here in support of this, because we've watched this work unfold. It might be step by step. And I hope it does inspire, because it is up to us to take care of our neighbors. But we start with respect and care. So I just wanted to add my voice and say I am so appreciative of the talent that created this beautiful image, and the willingness to go through such an extensive process. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Lucia Lopez. I'm 13 years old, and I've been a resident of Skokie for over 10 years. I'm a descendant of the Isleta Pueblo tribe of New Mexico. I'm really glad that people have come together to advocate for a change of our village's seal to a design that doesn't perpetuate harmful stereotypes of indigenous peoples. Seeing the old village seal with that headdress in various places all over town, including our garbage cans, can make me feel like it's giving kids the wrong idea about who Native people are and who we can be. It limits our ideas and understanding of each other, Native and non-Native alike. I think the new design is beautiful and represents a connection to the land and to the people who gave us our name, the Potawatomi, in a beautiful and good way. I can't wait to see the new seal all over town, and I'm grateful to the change makers and all the people in our community who have been working on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Please, no. No public outbursts, please. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to also kind of lend my voice.
First, may we have your name first?
My name is Megan Bang, and I am the director of the Center for Native American and Indigenous Research at Northwestern, auntie to the young people who are in this room and family member. And I mostly just wanted to say thank you for your leadership about this, I think we're in a really important time where we recognize that representations matter. And as a person who thinks a lot about child well-being and development, we actually know that stereotyped images of Indians increase racist stereotypes about everybody. So there's a deep correlation that when young people see symbolic representations of people that are actually inaccurate, it kind of gives them permission to do it to everybody. So there's been good research over the last 30 years demonstrating that you see far more higher rates of other forms of bias and discrimination, not only around Native people, but around all peoples when you have symbols like that are problematic. So just wanted to say that I hope that everyone holds that the leadership in shifting this doesn't just benefit Native people. It actually benefits everyone in your community in all kinds of ways. And then the other thing that I just wanted to say is that this representation to me really is an act of leadership that pulls forward, and I really appreciated the idea of the future possibilities of the village. I think that the more that leadership demonstrates reaching for complex possibilities, even amongst many demanding times, is the kind of thing that good democracies and towns do. So just want to say really deeply thank you for that, and thank you for your leadership.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who wishes to address the village board on this subject? Thank you. March 17th will be the second reading and adoption. St. Patrick's Day, yes. Next item is Plan Commission Case 2025-01P. Johanna Neiden.
Good evening. Standing in for Paul Luke this evening. At the February 20th, 2025 meeting of the Plan Commission, the request from Sen Real Estate LLC for the special use permit to operate a children's daycare not in a residence at 4658 Oakton Avenue in a CX core mixed-use zoning district was recommended, approved by a vote of 6 ayes, 0 nays, with 3 members absent. The proposed use will reactivate a building that has been vacant for several years, where previous approval was granted for a daycare in 2019, but operations never commenced due to external factors. The daycare facility will accommodate up to 43 children and will offer the following. Hours of operation will be 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. 7 days per week. Full programming for infants through preschool-age children. Before and after school care for children 6 to 12 years of age. Meals will be prepared on site. There'll be an outdoor play area. And there'll be 6 on-site parking spaces, including 1 accessible space. The Plan Commission concurred with staff's recommendation to grant a special use permit, subject to the attached conditions, which included installation of a bike rack on the Oakton Parkway within the location shown on the site plan, restripe all faded parking space markings at the rear of the property, and relocate the existing no parking sign in the parking lot from the fence on the west side of the playground to the fence on the north side of the playground. And everything else was a standard condition.
Motion would be in order regarding special use permit for 2025-01P at the address 4658 Oakton in Skokie. Trustee Klein, seconded by Trustee Johnson. Are there any comments or questions?
I just wanted to ask if you can talk a little bit about the sustainability efforts. I heard the bike rack was one.
Sure. So daycare in and of itself in a transit-oriented development area is a sustainable element of our neighborhood. Being able to walk to drop your children off, maybe catch the train. We like these kinds of uses near transit in neighborhoods that are pretty dense. So we're happy to see that there's additional daycare opportunities here. Any work done will require a permit, and the building will have to be brought to current codes, which are much more energy efficient and sustainable.
Thank you.
Trustee Pierce Sullivan.
Thank you, Mayor. I see that traffic patterns were taken into account, so I'm pleased to see that it won't create more, the staggering of the schedule will reduce any traffic congestion, as I'm reading. But my comment really is that I'm so supportive of anything that can help residents find wonderful childcare in the neighborhood so that people have the ability to work and to provide good care for their children. So I think this is such a great thing for the village, and it's in a good location where I think that there is probably not a lot of childcare facilities, so this is just exciting. Thank you.
Call the roll, please.
Trustee Sudker? Aye. Trustee Robinson?
Aye.
Trustee Kuhn?
Aye.
Trustee Johnson?
Aye.
Trustee Pierce-Lovan?
Aye.
Trustee Klein? Mayor Van Dusen?
Aye, the motion passes. The final item this evening is public comment. Is there anybody who wishes to address the village board? Everybody gets 3 minutes.
Good evening, folks. I'm Bob Cusel, a 32-year resident of Skokie, Southeast Quadrant, and I'm here tonight to advocate for ethical campaign practices and I'm speaking to the entire board. I'm here tonight to urge all the candidates running for Skokie office who've signed the Illinois Code of Fair Campaign Practices to continue to respect that pledge. I appreciate the fact that they've signed, agreeing to conduct ethical campaigns, but that's not enough just in and of itself. Looking ahead, signing a pledge but remaining mute when unethical schemes are deployed toward anyone, particularly against a political rival, must be construed as unspoken approval. Skokie voters deserve and expect more from the good folks who seek to represent us. So about those loathsome campaign tactics, we see them across the country in misrepresentations and distortions of candidates' records, push polls, fear-mongering, whisper campaigns, and more. There's just no place for that in Skokie. Misleading voters with lies and distortion is a perversion of good democratic process, and misinformation, no matter how it's presented, would deprive Skokians of the authentic information they need upon which to base who they cast their ballot for. I know we're better than that. So I'm calling on every candidate to speak out immediately and forcefully when we see unscrupulous tactics. How do we define unethical? It's like the Supreme Court's definition of pornography. We know it when we see it. So here's a pro tip. If a mailing doesn't originate from the Friends of the Candidate return address, scrutinize it carefully and follow the money. For wonderful resources on clean campaigns, please visit www.citizensforethicalcampaigns.org. And I thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is David Dalka. I'm putting towards the record again that on February 18th, I brought this piece of paper before you, and I was promised an answer with solutions to each one of these problems by today, and that didn't happen.
Mr. Dalka, I was out of the office this last week. I wasn't able to address your letter. You will get an answer within the next
I'm not looking
week.
for an answer, I'm looking for solutions, sir. There's a very big difference between those two things.
I will reply to your letter within a week.
I'm looking for solutions, not a letter.
Okay.
So, moving onward, I'd like to go into details about the issues of Church Street. Here in my hand is a bill from AAA for my parents' car of $980, and another one for $358 because shock absorbers and other suspension parts have been breaking because the village management and the county can't speak together about creating things involving fixing the Church Street and repaving it. Now it needs to be fully rebuilt because it's been neglected so far. But back in December 16th of 2019, I emailed Mr. Wyatt about these issues. He reached out to somebody in the county at that time, Mr. Sufford's staff, and didn't get a response. And then in February of 2020, Mr. Wyatt told me that Adam forwarded my email to Superintendent Yonan. I didn't hear from Mr. Wyatt for 2 years after that email in 2020. In 2022, on March 10th, I emailed Mr. Wyatt again asking what dates will the full repaving take place of Church Street this year, and I received no reply. I emailed on the February 28th, 2024, I emailed Mr. Wyatt saying, please immediately repave Church Street or resign from malfeasance and neglect of duty of infrastructure, which is the topic du jour. And what I'm here to do is to show that I'm the world's biggest public expert on the malfeasance of infrastructure management in Skokie. And then I forwarded that email to Mr. Lockerbie on March 13th, 2024. This road now needs to be fully rebuilt instead of repaved due to Mr. Wyatt not following through and creating results for over half a decade, to which Mr. Lockerbie did not reply. My question is, why, when there's serious infrastructure problems in this village, do people not take the issues seriously, work to do this? And then multiple times I was told by Mr. Wyatt and Mr. Lockerbie that they don't know who in the county to talk to, but yet at the last village board meeting, the assistant of one of the commissioners that serves this city was here. And during the water fiasco, Ms. Preckwinkle was there doing the photo op to hand out water on Sunday morning, the 17th of February. Mr. Lockerbie, Mr. Wyatt, did you talk to Ms. Preckwinkle about the condition of Church Street and her promise to repave it on February 17th, is my question.
I did.
Okay. So what date is it going to be done this spring?
No, it will not be done this spring.
Well, I have emails dating back to 2018 saying it'll be done next year. It needs to be done this year. It needs to come out of your pocket from a courtroom if it doesn't get done this year.
Okay.
And we'll see to that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to you tonight on something that is very important to me personally. My name is Greg Schneider. My wife, 3 sons, and myself live at 3925 Madison in Skokie, 1 block east of Crawford, 1 block south of Maine. This Crawford Avenue redesign project would clearly affect not just us, but everybody in the whole area. Skokie has done a terrific job for the residents on a number of things. That's why we lived here, and I've been here since 2003. Skokie Library is terrific. Skokie Health Department is top-notch. The new apartment building in Oakton and Lincoln Avenue is well done and adds to the downtown. This Crawford Avenue redesign, however, is not a good thing and would be a significant mistake. This would take us back to the horse and buggy days and not make any sense today. There has never been an open and free discussion between the Village of Skokie and its residents concerning this plan. I know there was a Zoom meeting held 4 years ago. I never knew about it. Most people never knew about it. I would have been all over it if I knew about it. It was held, and a few people, 40, 50 people, gave their opinion out of 80,000 residents in Skokie. The village has used that one first meeting, which was brief and poorly noticed, to evolve a major plan without involving the entire village. Surely it can do better. There were a couple of meetings showing plans, but again, there were no public comments allowed in these things. I went to every one, McCracken, whatnot, allowed for written comments, but nothing public. This is my first chance I've had to talk about this. I remember years ago, there was an Oakton Road diet plan, and 250 people came out against that. There has never been an opportunity for the whole village to come out and speak. A referendum, something to, let's get everybody's opinion. My wife and I have canvassed the area. 9 out of 10 people don't want this. Why don't they want it? That's because thousands of cars use Crawford Avenue every day. It is particularly busy during rush hours, 7 to 9 a.m. and 4 to 6 p.m. It's not easy to get onto Crawford for my wife and myself with 2 lanes each way at that time. To reduce Crawford to 1 lane at that each way would make it impossible during rush hour to take a left turn onto Crawford or from going Crawford South onto Madison Avenue. Impossible. People would be avoiding Crawford Avenue and going on to Main Street. It would affect the schools there. I had Eric Cron, I know Eric Cron is moving, but Middleton is still on Main,
Mr. Snyder.
and it would affect the kids on Middleton.
Mr. Snyder, your 3 minutes are up. I think you have,
You're done.
What's that?
You're done. Time up.
Am I done?
yes, sir.
Okay.
He has an ear infection, so
That's
I'm going to
okay.
take over. I'm his wife,
That's
Christine
okay.
Pomeranke
Yes,
Schneider.
I know.
I know.
And we have your written comments.
Yes, and I'm
So-
just going to continue,
No,
if you
that's
don't
fine.
mind, with
No.
all due respect.
No.
I do see familiar faces. I do have taught your son, your grandson, and some other people that are on the board, and I really appreciate being here. This is my first time actually being live in this room, and as an AP government teacher at Niles North, been there 31 years, I think I'm going to have a field trip for my 106 Gov students to come, because I'm finding this fascinating as an exercise in democracy. But back to the Crawford situation, we have been quite upset, and not just us, but our neighbors. And as Greg spoke out a few years ago, when we found out about this plan, we did go neighbor to neighbor to neighbor to neighbor, Oakton all the way to Dempster, and asked people. And we have felt that, unfortunately, COVID happened, yes, and then everything was on Zoom. And as one of your gentle people were talking about earlier, there's the electorate that doesn't really get out, doesn't pay attention, is too busy. So many of our people are hardworking individuals, and they don't have time to pay attention to these meetings. And so when we have gone to these, at Oakton, the various public meetings at McCracken, it's more been a matter of talking to engineers and leaving written comments, and then that was it. And so we've never been able to voice our concerns. I've had so many people that I know that have gotten hit riding bicycles on their bikes, and they've gotten hit by cars. And I know that one answer is to have these bike lanes. And bike lanes, yes, but not bike lanes on Crawford. And so having spoken to so many people that live and also live on Crawford, that are not in favor of reducing from the 2 lanes each way to 1 lane. That's a real challenge. And living on Madison, my final comment is just that the traffic, not only are you leaving from Crawford, it's going to go to Maine, but it's also going down Madison. So all of a sudden, we're getting this traffic going really, really fast down Madison, and we're a side street. So that's not safe. My kids are old now. They're 22, and 18, but there are lots of little kids still. And so I think that is a real challenge. So, democracy, referendum, all of this stuff is absolutely, but I think we need to hear our voices and not just push through some agenda. Yes, bike lanes, but not on Crawford. Thank you.
Thank you, and your kids are
May I
welcome
indulge this board
anytime.
for 30 more seconds? 30 seconds.
Okay.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, Lincolnwood between Oakton and Devon is 4 lanes, no parking, runs beautifully, very smoothly. No bike lanes. That's the way this should be. It would run very smoothly this way. Bike lanes could be on Kilbourne or Keeler, or it could be on between the canal and McCormick. I met with the village manager and the engineers several years ago to talk about this. And any speeding on Crawford can be taken care of other ways. Skokie police, enforce speed cameras, speed cones. There's other ways to take care of that. So I think the original plan of resurfacing the area between Oakton and Gulf is a beautiful plan, and it needs it. And just like Lincolnwood, it should stay that way, and they don't need parking lanes and bike lanes. That should be in a different area than Crawford, which is a major thoroughfare.
Mr.
Thank
Snyder?
you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening. I speak tonight to acknowledge 2 trustees, Trustee Klein and Sutker, who are departing this board at the end of their current term. With their election in 2013 as village trustees, Trustee Sutker and Trustee Klein served during one of the most prosperous times in this village's history, a time in which this village experienced tremendous growth and development, and in no small measure to their service and the service of their colleagues up there on the dais. Trustee Klein, he'll be the first to tell you that he's not always politically correct. but that not need be a requirement for a public servant. Caring deeply, being invested in community, and helping others, those should. And over the course of his civic life, Trustee Klein has demonstrated those qualities time and time again. As for Trustee Sutker, for me, Trustee Sutker is the heart of this village board. Her caring and compassion for others is not just a public display, ladies and gentlemen. It's how she lives her life. In closing, I'd like to thank Trustee Sutker and Trustee Klein for their service to this community. This village has been made better by your service, and I thank you.
Thank you. We will, as a board, have an opportunity to honor both of our departing trustees. Mr. Brozak.
Okay, Jerry Brozak again from Optima. This term's coming to an end, so it's kind of historic for me. I see Trustee Johnson, like Edward Gibbon, is writing the history of Skokie for this period, so maybe this will be the last time I get to speak on this one issue. I won't go into all the gory details, and I want to emphasize again that I attack actions, not people. I don't think no one is corrupt. I would never use that word with anyone sitting on the dais. I just want to be clear about that. I said before, I admire Trustee Johnson's integrity and his courage. He's one of the rare people that has so much courage and integrity. On the other hand, he and I are at the opposite end of the political spectrum on a lot. So if anything, I should be biased against him, but I'm not. This whole thing, and I won't go into the details, with the Corporation Counsel and Trustee Johnson, I just want to say, and this may be the last time I'll say it, that I think Trustee Johnson has been abused and he's been bullied. And I try to be a man of honor, and I stand shoulder to shoulder with Trustee Johnson to support him, because, I think he's been abused and bullied, and I don't want to do anything shameful by not speaking up. So maybe this will be the last time I'll comment on the Corporation Counsel issue. So thank you.
My name is Magali Acacia, and my issue may seem trivial, especially with 40-degree temperature, but my issue is when we have snow, ice, the streets are not being taken care of. But more importantly is that I feel that my parking leads to an alley. To you, it's an alley, but to me, it's the street. It's my only way out. So when you don't plow it and you don't salt it, I am handicapped. And I think something should be done about that. You know, I have to wait. For the last 3 years, there's been, one incident where the village could show that they actually work for us. But, like when we had the ice, nobody, north of Dempster and west of Skokie Boulevard, even the streets were not salted. And, I call, of course, I'm sure several people have my name because I call and I write emails, but every year is the same thing, you just, that one incident, it doesn't happen again. It won't happen again this year because, here we are in March. But I think what we call alleys to some people is actually a street, and there should be, it should be salted and plowed. So, when can I expect some action?
Well, let me, first of all, John, do you want to address what our policy is?
Yes. Just so there's no surprises, the village has a prioritized plowing system. And so we salt the roads and we plow the roads with the most activity first, and then we move into the residential streets. The alleys are after that, but we only plow alleys after 6 inches of snow. And so we appreciate your comments and we'll take them into.
I know all that.
Okay.
I've heard it, I keep hearing it. And last year, when I addressed that same issue, you, Mayor, I was supposed to get some call or whatever. Someone was supposed to follow up, and nobody did. But I never before asked for my alley to be called a street because, I haven't been as handicapped. I'm not able to leave the streets, and people whose parking is in the front leads to a street. That's fine. They don't care because they're going to be salted. They're going to be plowed. But what you call my alley is actually my street, and I think something should be done for that.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else who wishes to address the village board?
All right, if there's no further comments, I'll comment. So for the 31st meeting in a row, I am still speaking in opposition of the board's political hiring and misappropriation of attorneys in Skokie's legal department. And I am still inviting the trustees to support or propose policy solutions to reform our legal department. And I am continuing to speak out because I have personally witnessed the board's misappropriation of attorneys in our legal department, and because, in my opinion, this is still the most serious systemic problem within our village government. So I continue to advocate for action. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Zucker.
I move we adjourn.